Top 5 Motley Crue albums next on Retro Serial. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Retro Serial. I'm your host, Ian C. We are going to be talking today about the top 5 albums of Motley Crue, at least in my opinion. I have to say that in the late 80s or the mid to late 80s, my favorite band by far was Motley Crue. Of course, that changed later as I got older, but during their heyday, it was actually my favorite band. So it's exciting for me to be talking about this topic with you. But before we go to the countdown, please let me remind you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and share this on your favorite social media. It would really mean a lot to me. Those are small steps to you, but they mean a lot to us here on the channel. And if you want to go that one extra step and donate some of that hard-earned cash, I will, as always, leave a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description box below so that you can go ahead and donate to see improvements here on the show. We are dedicated to bringing you the best of growing up Generation X nostalgia, and everything that you donate just goes towards improving this place. So thank you, and if you haven't already done all that stuff, please consider doing so. Now, top 5 albums. Okay, coming in at number 5 is Generation Swine. Now this one might be a little bit controversial due to the fact that it wasn't released until 1997. So are we really talking about growing up Generation X? Well, I was a young adult in 1997, or maybe even getting to be an older adult by 1997. However, I just had to include this because I thought it was innovative, and I was really happy that Vince Neil got to rejoin the band. And it was the last album that they had Tommy Lee on for a while until he came back later as well. So I really enjoyed Generation Swine. I thought that they switched to a more alternative rock, which a lot of people didn't like the album because of that, because they were getting away from their alternative, or they were getting away from their regular hard rock or glam rock roots, and now switching to a new genre. But I have to say that this is not the first time Motley Crue's been accused of that. As a matter of fact, it seems like every album that comes out, they are accused of kind of being selling out. But I don't think so, in my opinion. I just don't think so. I think that the album's a good album. It's a solid album, and whether or not it's outside the genre, both as far as growing up Generation X, or whether or not it's outside the genre as far as how they used to sound, and actually they tried to recapture that sound later, it doesn't matter to me. It's still a great album, and it deserves my number 5 position. And at number 4 is Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood was released in 1989, and let me tell you, I still love this album even to this day. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite songs that I listen to all the time is Kickstart My Heart. When I get to the gym and I want that pump, and especially when I'm running on the treadmill and I just want something to push me over the edge, to pick my pace up against, Kickstart My Heart is one of my favorite songs that get that accomplished. I love that song, and I actually like the whole album. And one of the reasons I like the album is because I believe that it was better, and actually I was disappointed, and this might be controversial, but I was disappointed with Girls, Girls, Girls. I really didn't like Girls, Girls, Girls. I really thought Girls, Girls, Girls was kind of their excess album. It was a little bit, I would say, out of my taste zone. I just really didn't care for it. But I thought Dr. Feelgood kind of brought it back to what the band was originally about altogether. Number 3 is Shout at the Devil. What list wouldn't be complete without that? I don't know. I think if everybody had a top 5 list, Shout at the Devil would have to be on their list somewhere. Shout at the Devil, released in 1983, took a dark turn after their more power pop Too Fast for Love they took a dark turn into Shout at the Devil, wearing the darker makeup. And the songs on there I thought were great. This is why it gets my number 3 position on this list. Who didn't like Looks to Kill? I mean, Looks to Kill was a great song. And then their rendition of the classic Beatles, Helter Skelter, I thought was just absolutely amazing. I love this album. It took a darker turn from what they were doing originally, but I still think it deserves to be on everyone's top 5 list, and for me, it took my top 3. Okay, coming in at number 2 is Theater of Pain, released in 1995. Now, I think they got a little bit of flack for Theater of Pain because it was such a drastic turn, but like I said, like all their albums seem to have this turn to them, but I think they were actually turning before the popularity. In other words, I think that they were trendsetters and not trend followers, but for sure, by this time they took upon that glam rock look that became so popular in the late 80s by so many other bands that seemed to follow in those footsteps. So they went from this dark album, Shout at the Devil, to this more glam album, Theater of Pain. However, I still think Theater of Pain was a serious album. Yes, it did give us a great song in Home Sweet Home, which I think to this date is still their most popular song. But I think that there were actually some darker and more mature themes on this album as well. And I actually enjoyed the album overall. I didn't, even though their look was certainly glam, I didn't see that their sound was as party sound as, say, Girls, 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 or as, I don't know, that glam rock kind of sound that was popularized by Poison and Warrant and things like that. It didn't sound like that. They did look like that, but to me, they didn't quite sound that way. Although, it was akin to that, but I don't think it was really that. So anyway, whether or not you like glam metal or you didn't like glam metal, Theater of Pain takes my number 2 position in top 5 Motley Crue albums. Coming in at number 1 is Too Fast for Love, their very first album released in 1981. That was my favorite of their albums then, and it's my favorite of their albums now. That has not changed over the years. And let me just tell you that the reason why I liked it is because I find it to be a little bit more punk rock than their other albums. Their other albums are certainly in the heavy metal genre somewhere, some being glam or akin to glam, and some being more just regular heavy metal rock albums. This one, however, seemed to have a flavor of punk rock to it, and it seemed to have a flavor of maybe a harder version of power pop, which I do really enjoy, and I did even enjoy it back then. For many people, and myself included, while I did like a lot of their other albums, I was always wondering when they were going to produce another version of Too Fast for Love. That was by far, again, my favorite album. Songs like Live Wire, Merry Go Round, Take Me to the Top, all of them, every single one of them I liked. And the other reason that I liked it is, and on the heels of that last comment, is that I can listen to the whole album and not want to skip through a song. There are very few albums out there that you can kind of listen to the whole thing and enjoy the whole thing. And that's not to say, that's just not to say anything bad about any band. Every band has that. Every band has, an album in which you have a collection of songs that you like, and, if you're into the band, has a collection of songs that you like, and maybe one or two that you don't really care for, that, you skip the track to get to the songs that you really do like. However, this was not the case with Too Fast for Love. With Too Fast for Love, I could listen to that thing from beginning to end over and over again. There were no songs that I wanted to fast forward through at that time. I didn't skip the track. You push fast forward on the tape recorder. And so I didn't want to do that with this album. And for that very fact that it was they were almost trying to find their sound at that point, and it came across as almost a punk album in a lot of ways. For that fact, or at least a hard power pop band. For that fact, it ranks my number one position. All right, so now you've heard my top 5. What are your top 5? Is there anywhere you disagree with me? Is there anywhere you agree with me? Let's hear it in the comments section below. And before we go, as always, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video. If you dislike this video, hit the down button, the thumbs down button twice. That'll really let me know that you dislike this video, and share it on your favorite social media. Also, if you want to donate some of your hard-earned cash, the description box will have our link to buy me a coffee. And if you didn't know this already, this is also a podcast. This video won't be a podcast. This one will be exclusive to my YouTube page. But I do have a podcast called Retro Serial. And if you are more interested in podcasts, longer format podcasts, go over there and subscribe. It should be on iTunes, Spotify, all your major podcast platforms. So I'm Ian C. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you again on another episode of Retro Serial.